Tuesday Night Live with Riz and the Dog as we break new ground. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here bringing you baseball along with Jeff the Dog Healy. We are breaking new ground tonight, folks. We are in sort of like the test mode here, but we're if you're on Facebook and you're following us on the Facebook page, everything should go pretty swimmingly smoothly. And if you're trying us out on YouTube, Twitch, or Periscope/Twitter, it might not go so great. But if it does, then it's awesome. So you can follow us on all these places at Diamond Diehards. That's on Twitter. You can also check us out there on Instagram, facebook.com/Diamond Diehard. So we're migrating you over from the group to the page now. So if you've been following us on the Facebook group, switch over to the Facebook page. It takes the word group out of there. It's really quick to get to. And, it should be pretty good. And it should help us grow. And it should help us get the word out there. So, Jeff Healy, 8 on Twitter. That's how you can follow the dog. You can follow me on Twitter at Rear Naked Choke, all one word. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, you could do that too. Joe Rizzo MMA over there. And once again, if you want to follow us on Twitch, it's also Diamond Diehards. There's no at, it's just twitch.tv/Diamond Diehards. And the YouTube link, I don't think we have Diamond Diehards on YouTube yet, but look around wherever you're finding this, and you could click and find our YouTube page there. We're going to start posting all these videos there as well. We want you to listen when you are not near a live stream, and you could subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you find them. Please subscribe. We would love for you to do that. So as we break new ground, we keep with old traditions. And if you're new to the show, we appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk about some baseball here in a little bit. But first, the way we kick off all these shows is with the dog coming in and giving us Veteran of the Day. Dog?
All right, Riz. Exciting times. Getting a launch on Twitter. We are on YouTube. I saw it on there. So I actually subscribed to YouTube. Probably had to figure that one out. So we've got a great Veteran of the Day for this one. Who better, if we're doing Veteran of the Day for baseball, than the guy who is widely thought of as the inventor of baseball? It's a little bit arguable. No one's really found anyone else, though the info's a little sketchy on it. But basically, our Veteran of the Day is Brigadier General Abner Doubleday. So again, we thought of just the widely thought of as the inventor of baseball. Basically, why the Hall of Fame is in Cooperstown, New York, his hometown. Abner Doubleday graduated West Point in 1842. That's why I sort of think he was invented in 1839. He would have been at West Point at the time, so probably wasn't inventing while he was at the Long Gray Line. Anyway, he was commissioned artillery officer, which is a big deal. You had to be super smarty. So he was all about the launch angle, way before the launch angle was cool. Served in the Mexican War, the Third Seminole War. I found some fascinating stuff on this one, actually. He was at Fort Sumter. He was the second in command of Fort Sumter. So everyone knows that's where the first shots of the Civil War were fired by the Confederates, forcing the Fort Sumter to fall. However, his gun crew actually returned fire, and so therefore his gun crew fired the first Union shots of the Civil War, which I thought was kind of cool. I served at the Second Bull Run. I mean, this is like a where's where of the Civil War. Second Bull Run, Fredericksburg, Antietam, Chancellorsville. Just brutal battles on here. And also, he took command of the Union vanguard at Gettysburg on the very first day of the battle, and basically helped stabilize the situation when his corps commander got killed, and really set the stage for the Union to be able to bring the rest of its forces and win that decisive battle that turned the tide of the Civil War. So pretty sharp on that. I stayed in the Army. Actually, wound up commanding an all-black regiment in Texas, the 24th Infantry Regiment, in 1871, which was pretty ahead of its time back then. And basically, wherever he went, he helped teach people all about baseball. He brought in like baseballs and bats, and then taught them all about baseball. So he helped spread baseball across the country from there. And interesting, we have to tie this in now. So this is why I have the Army hat. So that's for Abner on there. So coming down to his descendant, obviously, if you're a Met fan, you remember this guy very well, Nelson Doubleday, who helped come in and was a part owner of the Mets in 1980. And Nelson Doubleday brought in Frank Cashin, who helped turn the franchise around, leading to the Mets championship in 1986. So obviously, I think a nice bookend from both the veteran and the baseball time for Diamond Diehards. So once again, our veteran of the day, Brigadier General Abner Doubleday.
All right, Dog. So that's a good way to get it started. He invented baseball, and we're inventing new ways to get. Well, I mean, he's credited for inventing baseball, but whatever. And we're inventing new ways to
Ish.
get diamond diehards out to people. So if fortunately, our Twitch and our YouTube, and well, maybe not our Twitter so much, are a little stealth to people right now. And in fact, your audio is not coming over those channels. So, but if you're on Facebook, we're good there. We're good there. So we will get that figured out for the next time. Jerry Milani, awesome, has taken hours and hours to help me out to try to get me into the loop here and figure this thing out. Okay, so I mean, is it always just about the Mets now? Every time, every time we turn it on, it's
This
like
is all people want to talk about.
I
By
know.
people, I mean me.
Yeah, well, it's you know what it is? It's like the dominoes. The Mets seem to be like the first domino to fall, right? Like, I mean, everything is going to circle around them. Steve Cohen, the new money, the new toy. What are they going to do? Are they going to sign Bauer? Are they going to sign this guy? Are they going to sign that guy? And I'm sure that if I was an agent, I would be advising my clients to not do anything, to first go for that Met.
The Mets have shown interest in whoever it needs to be
Yeah,
that I
like
represent.
right. Like it's just it's
So for
it's
everyone else in baseball.
make sure that Met money, is starting to get spent first before you make any kind of move. Now the funny thing is, that sort of like drives up your own prices and your own terms, maybe, which you and I talked about in the last show. You can go check that out. But you don't want to like start bidding against yourself, because
Yep.
inevitably what's going to happen is it's not going to work out well. I mean, it might work out okay in the short term, but in the long term, even if you have the money to pay these contracts off, they just become albatrosses over your roster, and they hamstring what you're trying to do in years later. And Cohen has said, like, he wants to get a championship within the first 3 to 5 years, but I mean, he wants the team to be relevant every year, and you can't do
Yeah.
that.
It's not a Marlins situation.
Like, you can't do that. And we'll talk about the Marlins too, who
Yeah.
made other big news of the week.
Yep.
Like, you can't just saddle yourself with these contracts and expect to be winners emeritus in baseball in the 2020s.
Yeah, and like we were saying, I mean, I think baseball's changed too, right? There's so many more guys who are signed up before they hit free agency, right? That I think the thought that you can just roll in and like throw $100 million and solve all your problems in an off season, you just can't do that. I mean, if you list it down, and the Mets got half the top free agents out there, which is there's a lot of other teams competing too. If you got half of them, you can't solve everything in one huge free agent spending spree. I mean, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to get your top one or two, maybe, because you can outbid everybody. But you're not going to build your team for sustainability and for the long term. And I do think that is something that Cohen is certainly has interest in. Plus honestly, he's a markets guy. Like, I'm a markets guy too. It's like, what, just inherently, like, you don't want to sit there and just overpay, right? I mean, it's just. I
Yeah,
mean, he's
of
not going to be
course
running the
not.
day to day and stuff, but he's not going to want to hear like, we got this guy for 35. I mean, he's really worth 25, but I don't, that's still just okay. How much money you got? That's still gonna put a put a crawl in your throat on that one. So
Right, like now he's got to overperform to 10 million a year valuation, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
who the hell
exactly. It's
wants
like
that?
that's yeah, and honestly, that puts pressure on other guys too, right? And then you become like you're almost like the joke team. It's like, oh, here's all the guys way overpaid because Cohen doesn't know what he's doing, blah blah blah. You don't want to set your franchise up for that. I mean, I think the smartest thing he's doing, he's going around and every top baseball exec who basically has an opportunity is now all of a sudden looking at the Mets. I mean, that in of itself is just like jaw dropper. I mean, it's some of the guys that the Mets were looking at the last 2 or 3 times they've gone through GM situations. Like Sandy knows the good guys, right? I mean, he's plugged in enough with baseball. He knows what the good dudes are. Um, it's just a question, can they get them? You know, in prior times they couldn't. Right now, we'll see. I mean, it seems like they're starting to set the stage for them to have success, and that's how you sort of build a true franchise rather than just craft. You know, rather than buy a team for next year, you're building a franchise that's going to compete every year. Right? And
Now,
that's what a New
it,
York franchise should be.
now
Right?
this kid can hit.
Exactly.
Who's this kid? What is this kid doing on my team? So, okay. it- the the first thing is we talked about, we got into a little bit about what their priority should be. Um, I just find it really, really hard to imagine that the Trevor Bauer Met Love Fest is going to not end up with him wearing a Met uniform at this point. He might just be doing it to go for the dough. He might be doing it because he really wants to. But let's just say Bauer's the first domino to fall. Does he set the market for everybody, or does he just set the market for pitchers? That's the first question to me of the entire offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I always sort of tend towards it only sets it for the position. So I don't think it necessarily means that he got this, therefore Springer's going to get this, and Real Muto is going to get this. Um, but yeah, he's clearly at the top, right? So, um, yeah, I know
He's
we're gonna have to see.
he's going to get the
I
top
mean,
for the
he's
price.
obviously been super savvy, right? I mean, that's like I said, we talked about in the last show, right? I'll be honest, I'm less enthused on the Trevor. I think there's more risk in the Trevor Bauer move, and again, maybe just as a markets guy, I'm like, I think there could potentially be a lot of downside, especially if you're going to be going long with the guy and they're going to be building it for a long time period. Um, I'm not sure his stats will stand up to that, honestly. And I think like that's where you see like if you're going to go out and sort of set the stage for what is the Steve Cohen Mets going to look like. If you go out right away with like a super high beta, I would put it, guy like a Trevor Bauer who, if he reverts back the other way, boy, do you want your first one to be a big egg right in your face? I don't know, Jason Bay.
Well, I mean,
I mean, us Met fans don't remember that, right? I mean, we're a little nervous. Maybe that's it. Maybe we're just a little nervous on that one. And I think, especially if he's going out there and I think the personality wise too. That's I don't know. I have concerns on that. If he hits it here though, he'll be huge,
listen,
right? I mean,
Jason
that's
Bay. Jason Bay was a name that was like on the tip of my tongue as we started this segment, because that is your that's your first year potential Met nightmare, right? Like that you do not want,
I mean,
you know,
every one of us was thrilled,
yeah. So,
right?
what you don't want is that you've overpaid one of these guys in terms of years, in terms of, money per year, money for the length of the contract, and they come to New York and they can't take it, and they flop, and it turns out to be just a bad deal for the guy, a bad deal for the team. It's the era of bad feeling, and then other guys end up not wanting to come there, except for they have no other choice, and you're going to open
Biggest
your
check, yeah.
checkbook for them, right?
Yep.
So look, we've seen it before, right? Where big market teams, and it's not just in baseball, it's in all the sports. They get mismanaged, despite having a world and a wealth of assets, right? Like, I mean, look at the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks used to be the toast of New York, and they've been just downright awful for like it's 20 years now,
Yeah.
and they have more money, and it's like in the
And it should
NBA,
be easier to turn around in basketball.
right? Because you get the best guy, and it's like that's a fifth of your team. So, they have in the NBA a salary cap, but the salary cap doesn't exactly like hamstring teams if you know how to manage it like a little bit. And they have no idea how to do that. And
Yeah.
in baseball, you don't have a salary cap, you have luxury tax, and it doesn't benefit you to, exceed that luxury tax by a lot. Teams that do that generally, are usually, I mean, it would be hard to exceed the luxury tax in baseball and not be like at least 500 or over. But every now and then, you get a Red Sox move
Yeah,
where
there's guys up
like
in the north, right?
yeah, like they bottom out, and then they somehow, the Dodgers let them off the hook and take some of their guys away, and it ends up working out only because you have savvy general management. Like it, the Mets could screw this up. Like they really could screw it up. It would be crazy for them to just sprint into this market and say, "Look, these are the best guys, and we're going to get the best guys this year." Because you know what? You have to assess, what do you have behind them at that position?
Yeah.
What's the cost difference in terms of like, okay, I have a 22-year-old guy coming up to play the same position as George Springer. I'm not saying they do, but that's how you have to
They
weigh
don't.
George Springer. He's not, no, but I'm
Which is why
saying,
Springer's my number one.
well, right.
Yeah.
That's why it does make more sense in their case. But
Yeah.
if you run into deals like that, maybe the better free agent for that position for the long term is out there next year or in 2 years.
Yeah.
And if you pull the
Or it's
trigger
your
on that
guy.
guy
You're gonna
now,
sign.
right, or right, it's your guy. Hopefully that's the way it is. You
Yeah.
develop the guys, and then you can keep them and sign them to long-term deals. But like otherwise, you end up hamstringing the franchise by acting too early. The big criticism of this is it's not a free agent deal, but this is the big negative criticism of the Yankees being able to acquire Giancarlo Stanton at, pennies for the dollar prices from the Marlins a few years ago. Because the Yankees, you could make a really good argument that they didn't need him, and there could have
Yeah.
been other guys. I mean, the Marlins traded Christian Yelich for pennies on the dollar the same year, and you would have given 5 times as much for Yelich. He's turned out to be far the superior player because first of all he stays on the field, but he just looks like he's just better right at this point. And Stanton, we saw a flash of it in the playoffs where he was hitting a home run every game. And, if that's the guy you're getting, then he starts to look like he's worth that contract. But really, like what you see the Yankees doing is, okay, how many times can we play this guy in the outfield? How many times can we DH him? How do we set, we have Judge over here, and, who are we going to put here? Who are we going to put there? You have Aaron Hicks on, I guess you'd call it like sort of a team friendly deal, 7 years, 70 million. I think he's like 2 or 3 years through that deal. And he has trouble staying on the field. You got three guys that would be your normal outfield. That would be a sick outfield if they actually played all the time,
Yeah.
but they don't. So you have to plug in these Talkmans and these other guys, right? And say you have, which they do, a stud coming up who plays the outfield. You're going to clear out space. How are you going to do that? How are you going to clear Stanton out? If you make Stanton your everyday DH, that's a huge commitment. It changes the whole aspect of your team. You
Yeah.
can't rotate that, you can't rotate your infield and, give a guy a day off every 10 days from playing in the field. Like you can't move guys around, you can't rest guys. Like, if Stanton's your DH every day. So, the more he can play the field, the better it is for them.
Yeah.
But
And obviously it's hard. It's even harder in the NL, right? It seems like they're not, as of now, they're not going to DH in the National League. So that makes it even harder when you go with the position player in the NL, right? That
yeah,
you need to be sure about it. I mean, I think honestly there's a couple things I would say on this. One, I think the Mets, what they really need is they need depth and they need some defense. Like Oldestein admitted, they went too much for offense because basically that's, to them, that was sort of the cheaper way to compete. Given the somewhat price constraints that they had with the team. So they said, our value that we saw was getting guys who could bang, and hopefully we got a good enough pitching staff that we're going to work around the fact that our defense is not that good. got him to a certain stage, couldn't get him high enough up, right? So that's sort of a known weakness you need to address, particularly up the middle. Right? And then for the other thing was really depth, right? So and this is one I think someone had a great story on this. It was really illustrative of like the Wilpon era last year, right? When you had Wheeler. So you came off, you got Stroman, which was a sort of a strange deal already. Like the Mets kind of weren't in it. They went rolling the dice, getting Stroman.
Well, they had that 14-1 streak.
Yeah, also like it went crazy. So also it's like, wow, we're actually competing now. And you had like Wheeler and Stroman. The thought at the time is you kind of got Stroman, figuring Wheeler was going to walk. He would get too much money, so you were sort of replacing him a little bit ahead of time. And oh, by the way, maybe we'll get hot and we get lucky. And it almost worked. So I mean, they cut it close. But then they let Wheeler go, and instead of signing like Porcellos and Wakas and stuff, we're like that to me, that's emblematic of what will change under Cohen, right? Is that when you have a guy who's and Wheeler was on a pretty consistent basis of improving. Like he's the kind of guy you want to keep around, right? I mean, a homegrown guy, even had playoff experience with him. I mean, he's shown he can do it in the big stage. And was continuing to improve, was young, a guy who can extend for a while.
It wasn't that young. He wasn't that young.
He's not that young, but he was right in his prime.
Right.
I mean, he's right in his prime. Right? It's not a 32-year-old guy you're signing, right? He's
right.
Like
it wasn't 22. It wasn't 20. Right.
Yeah, he was like 27, 28. He's like the perfect guy. You do 4 or 5 years, big sort of number. This is your big ticket time, and we need you to perform at your best. And the franchises with more assets generally keep guys like that. If you're even smarter, you sign them a year or two ahead of time, you get it for a cheaper deal for longer. That's not the Met way. That wasn't the Met way.
Wow,
hopefully that's going to be the Met way going forward. Right.
That's
So and that's why I think the big, like, that's the saying, like getting the Bauer, like the number one pitcher. I don't think that's what the Mets need. The Mets need like, a Tanaka, these Morton's hands, like all these like okay guys, right? And someone argues a little bit against like you don't want to go too far down like the Wakas and Porcellos, where like you're just trying to hope for lightning in a bottle. Like you need solid like number 3 guys. And if you want to go for the extra, twinkle on it and go for Bauer, because maybe Stroman's really not that good, which I'm kind of in that camp. But like I'm not sure I feel great about him being your number 2, number 3. I'd probably feel okay on him as number 3. If he's a number 2 and like Syndergaard can't come back strong next year and whatnot, that's not necessarily, especially if I think myself as a playoff team, that might be a little bit of a weakness, which maybe says you overpay a little bit for a Bauer.
Uncle Paul doesn't want Tanaka. I want Tanaka back. He's like my favorite.
I think he would be a great guy in the Mets, like a steady number 3 for the Mets, and upside.
Even better if there's no DH, right? They'll just mow people,
you're a pitcher, down. You got to hit.
well, he could hit. He played in Japan. A lot of those Japanese pitchers come over and are good hitters. Otani, crap.
So that again, I think that's where the Mets kind of need to be more. And like I said, the biggest things I think they have holes in center field and catching. I mean, you'd probably argue catching is probably the worst. Just because Nito is just not
so
really.
You and I are in different camps, except for we both think George Springer is like the no-brainer.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he's not.
But there is a limit, right? Like, I mean, are you going
to? And other people are going to compete, right?
Are you going to pay him $30 million a year? No, I wouldn't pay him $30 million a year.
Yeah.
He's not that, but like, how high would you go? Like 22 a year for 5 years? Like, that sounds probably like, is that going to get him, or is he going to get more than that from somebody somewhere? And that deal,
22 and 5, yeah, it feels like a pretty fair at best deal, right? Which sort of feels like you probably need to do that. You have him in position of need. He's kind of the guy. I mean, it's him or Jackie Bradley Jr. If I'm Steve
you
Cohen,
can't even compare those guys.
That's what I'm saying. If you're Steve Cohen, you're walking in and like my guy. I don't even know if that guy's even improving over Nimmo. So it's
defensively, he is. I mean,
defense he is, yeah.
And he's not better offensively than Nimmo. He's just streaky.
Yeah. Well, that's like that's almost like a Marisnik. supposed to kind of be, right? It's like
Well, he'd be. I mean,
okay, but
listen, if you platooned Marisnik and Jackie Bradley, that would be a pretty good platoon in center field as long as you could bat them seventh. I mean,
yeah,
you could bat him seventh or lower, but if you have Springer, you have a guy that you could plop, right at
Uncle
the.
Paul wants Ali Perez over Tanaka.
Oh God, come on, Uncle Paul.
He's going
Um,
crazy. He's going crazy about the Bobby Bonilla deal. We have to have a whole separate segment on time value of money.
so yeah, at least Uncle Paul has he has migrated over to the Facebook page
Yeah, he's in
from the
strong.
Facebook group. So that's good news. So we got the most important person over. We got Uncle Paul moved over. We're good on that.
Game.
So the priority is definitely Springer, right? But
Yeah.
you and I totally disagree.
Springer Real Moto, I would say
Okay, and
is
I
probably
and I am all for Bauer because I think I would rather I'd rather swing for the fences and miss on the pitcher than I would for the catcher because there's still a chance that like the pitcher could have some usefulness even in a different role. Like say he gets hurt or whatever. Like okay, maybe he can come back as a reliever and maybe, he becomes one of these like 3 inning relief guys and you change the way that you're doing things based on all this data that we saw in 2020 with the truncated season and
I,
bringing
t- I
guys in
totally
for three
disagree.
innings, whatever. I'd rather swing and miss on the pitcher if I'm going to spend it. I'd rather go for that because the catchers are just the attrition rate's too high. I was wrong last show about Real Muto's age. He's like pushing 30 already, and I just don't know what I'm going to get out of him. I want to if I'm signing Real Muto, I'm signing him to catch 100 games a year in the regular season, and then play behind the plate, almost every game with maybe a game off here or there through the playoffs. That's how I'm signing him. So to me, you got to sign him, and have somebody else that's like also capable back there. Like you got to have two guys if you want to extend his life out at all for me. So
Yeah, I would argue. I mean, if you bring up the injury bug, right? I mean, where's the injury bugs tend to be more biting in pitching, right? And the pitcher gets injured, that worries me way more than the catcher getting the normal knocked around.
yeah, but the catcher
And
is
the
gonna.
catcher also enables the other five pitchers, right? That
Yeah,
was wrong. Like Wilson Ramos couldn't frame a pitch to save his life. Like Syndergaard was terrified of throwing the ball, a slider in the dirt with Wilson Ramos, right? So all of a sudden, like you're reducing this at what a point was a strength in your team. So if I don't know, so I mean, if you get a catcher you don't feel trustworthy, and you have Bauer and DeGrom throwing to him,
okay,
right? I
so
mean,
go, dude. You could get,
on that guy's now reducing the capability of your pitchers because they're afraid of the guy. I mean,
but you could
Nito, I think
go.
is a good defensive catcher, but
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like there are defensive catchers out there. I mean, you could go get like Austin Hedges. Like he's
yeah,
you
someone's
could
throwing that one out there. But
get you could get Mike
can we
Zunino. I
talk
mean,
about the fact that the one they're talking there for Lindor and Hedges for like McNeil, like Jimenez, and like two other like prospects? I was like, GTFO on that one. Like McNeil, I'm like, how about McNeil for like Lindor, like straight up? like
yeah,
like McNeil's gonna be there for like the next 3 years. Like I'm gonna 1 year rent a Lindor. I mean, like, and then Hedges. I'm like, what the hell's Hedges gonna do? This
no.
guy's
I
got
mean
like OPS like 600.
but he's a good. He's to me he's like a really good. I didn't even see that by the way. I just like brought up his name
Yeah,
because
I just
he was a guy that like
so fired up.
he's been in the league a few years. He's a good defensive guy. He pops the ball out of the park every now and then. He's not the hitter that they hoped he would be, but defensively he's really good. And the Indians got him for next to nothing. I mean, he was a spare part in the Clevenger deal. So
He
you
still
know
is. So
well, that's what I'm saying. Like but he's good. Like he's a good solid like number 2 catcher who, if the first guy gets hurt, like he's not going to kill you if you have him back there. Again, if
yeah,
he's like as long as you can keep him in the bottom 3 of your order, he's fine and you don't want to catch him 100 games a year. But if you have Real Muto catching 100 games a year and Hedges catching the other 62 or thereabout, and you have a way to put Real Muto in the lineup for most of those other 62 games, then it's a win. What you're saying with the injury bug, pitcher versus catcher is just that steady, steep
Yeah.
decline. Pitchers, like, when they get hurt, they're just like, okay, he's out for the year, he's having Tommy John, and we'll check in, and he'll be back next year throwing 3 miles an hour harder. Like
Well,
Peter
s-
Fairbanks.
yeah. Well, you know what? That's funny. It's like, will that continue to be the result? Like we've seen so much of that in the last like 3 or 4 years. Like I don't know, is that the new thing? Like you where you had the worry of the pitcher get hurt and like that was it, and like the guy never, or maybe he came back but it was never quite the same pitcher again. And we've had 5, 6, 7 in a row where it's been like a top pitcher gets hurt, comes back, and he's awesome.
Right, and he's in
I
a
don't know.
lot of
Maybe that's
cases
it.
they're
Maybe
even better.
that's the way we've evolved. But I'm still a
Yeah,
little nervous on
but
that.
here's the other thing: if you're talking about, and this is like really inside baseball here, if you're talking about a pitcher missing an entire season and having a big paycheck, if he misses that season, you're collecting the insurance on that. So you've effectively just made it one less year without extending that year at the back of the contract. So that's maybe another reason why, like, again, if a pitcher is going to have a steady steep decline
Raises
like
the
that,
cost, right? You got to pay a little insurance premium
right,
for that privilege, but
yeah, but I mean, it's way less than you'd have to pay a guy like, Bauer's going to get like 30 million a year probably from somebody somewhere. And, it's just a matter of, you're going to do 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it ends up being. If for some reason he, unfortunately, through that deal, like I mean, let's just say anybody, that's Verlander right now, right?
yep,
Verlander's going to miss this season. And what is he, 36 million, or he would have been, or something?
something.
And okay, so the Astros won't have to pay all that. They'll pay, whatever portion of it they had paid in their insurance premium, and they'll get the rest of that paid off. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, that that
I mean, I
that
think for real,
Verlander deal ended up being a year shorter than they had to sign him for.
true. I mean, I think the key is for the catcher, you need to not go nearly as long in terms of years, right? And that's the question: can you do that or not? Will someone go and give him 5 years, and you know he's gonna be good for you hope he's gonna be good for 3. You probably know he's gonna be good for 2. He's probably gonna be good for 3. 4, he'll probably be all right, and 5th would be like,
But again, the less that you can,
yeah,
flatten the curve.
yeah,
Flatten the curve. Put a mask on that guy. Flatten
yeah.
the curve for
But
the
like
guy.
if you're the Mets, right? To me, like that's, and again, that's where like the money, like where you start to really get enabled is if you go and you're signing like the Syndergaards, the Confortos, those guys, and extending them long. Dom Smith or Alonso would pick your guy who it's going to be, sign him and extend him long, and get down his dollars per year. So that when those big contracts are rolling off and stuff, those guys, they're not like huge nuts where all of a sudden you got to place Real Muto. Oh, and you got to pay Syndergaard, you got to pay Conforto, you got to pay this, you got to pay that. Everyone's at a steadier state. And you're not trying to be cheap. You're not always trying to be cheap, right? Which again was sort of the Wilpon thing. You're always trying to squeeze that extra bit. Instead, pay a little bit more now and levelize it over time. Gives you a much better situation. Then when you got to replace Remonto in 3 years, then you have the ability to do it, and you can eat some salary to drop them if you need
Yeah.
to.
Well, it's so interesting though, because with the Mets, if they get the DH, I mean, that
Huge for
that
them.
changes their longer term, it changes their short term and their long term plan. Like right now, like if you said that there's going to be a DH in the National League from here on in,
It's on both.
then guess what? You can sign Jackie Bradley and George Springer. You could sign both of them, and you could, move put Bradley in center. Platoon him with Marisnik. That's a really great, platoon. And you put Springer in right and move Conforto to left, and you have Dom Smith and Pete Alonso just trading off at DH, right? I mean, that improves your defense up the middle. I mean, who knows, right? Who
Yeah.
knows?
I mean, I'd probably just soon keep I'd probably just soon keep Nimmo on left and Conforto on right, and just leave Springer in center. Would be my my
Well,
sort of
right.
preferred.
You could, but I'm
Like
just
I
saying.
wouldn't necessarily spend extra resources to get Bradley.
Well, the thing
Definitely.
is, he's not going to be that expensive, and he really, he greatly improves your defense.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, you do, and then you take
he's a
Nimmo
great
out
center
late,
fielder.
right?
He's
I mean,
great.
that's kind of like what Marisnik was doing with Nimmo last year. Only now you'd be taking Nimmo out of left or something like that. Like where I
Yeah.
was saying, like signing was like kind of like Dom Smith and Alonso, right? That's the problem. Like you don't know if you got to make the choice between the two right now. If you have the DH going forward, then you can keep them both, and you're gravy, right? So you got your big right, your big lefty, and you're set. But if you don't have the DH, do you feel comfortable throwing Dom Smith out left all the time? Maybe. Is that probably the best solution and best value for him? Being the left fielder for the Mets versus being the DH or first. And he's a good first baseman too, actually. Oh, by the way. So, is he a better fit for someone else as the full time first baseman? And they'll pay better value for that. Like, you just traded Dom Smith for like a number 3 starter,
Well, I'm
right?
I'll
I
do
mean,
that right now.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, or a stud middle reliever or something like that. Actually, you know what? Hell, Dom probably does that sort of value. He probably's got the value for number 3 or 4. My opinion.
Well,
Ozuna, stop with the Ozuna.
he's
That's all about Ozuna's agent. Come on now, Uncle Paul. So talking about the Mets showing interest in Ozuna. The Mets will theoretically have shown interest in everybody. They don't even have a GM yet, but they've shown interest in everybody.
well, that's the other thing. Let's talk about let's talk GMs for a second, okay?
There we go.
Because right now Theo Epstein is available, but he's
Says he's
taking a
taking a
year
year off.
off. So
So
what do you do?
we had in the page. I think he sets up to be the big dog, and sets up as the next president of the Mets, taking over for Sandy next year.
So you think he goes? You think he goes
I think it goes all
president
the way up.
rather than GM?
I think so. I mean, in the Met hierarchy, they had like president of baseball ops. I mean, he could be that. That's what he was already for the Cubs. My thought is you probably are not going to sit there and just skate by without one for a year waiting for Theo. So it's either he comes in right away as the president of baseball ops, and then he's just sort of like, what
I heard is that he wants an ownership stake as well.
Yeah, good.
Well,
Maybe the Wilpons can sell. They still have their 5%.
yeah.
You bastards. Take you and your fucking Amway franchise and get. All right. Sorry, kids. Only the dog talks like that.
That ain't the dog
I need
talking.
other beers.
That's usually the liquor talking, but tonight it's the dog
it's
talking.
juice this time. That's all. We'll pause an Amway.
Well,
So yes, I mean, they got what was it, the interesting guy from the A's, so who's a possibility there. Supposedly another guy from the Rays shown interest, so he might be more like the GM candidate versus baseball ops. I think the A's guy was more like a baseball ops guy. And I say, and then Theo, I don't know. I mean, he can whatever he wants, right? But I guess he's like taking a year off. Like he's taking a $10 million. Like he has to have as we would say, he has to have the far side of the trade already locked in, right? I mean, Theo's just like, I'm just gonna take the year off and like not get paid $10 million. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't want to stick around and breaking up the team, whatever. But methinks there's some sort of deal has been wink, wink, nod, nodded that he knows what his third chapter is already. Now maybe they just can't talk about it, whatever. But that seems like a big check to sort of say, I'm just going to take this year off and we'll let the 10 mil chill. And
well, I mean, look,
he's obviously comfortable, right? So
he's a needle mover. He's a franchise, from the bedrock all the way up changer, right? Like he broke the Red Sox and the Cubs curses. I mean, like that's like if you said to somebody in 2003, right?
Who better for the apple?
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
their curse isn't even like that long compared to the other two.
Yeah.
Maybe you should go to the Indians. But if you said in 2000 that, okay, guess what, there's going to be a guy that comes along and he's going to be, well, he was already there probably practically by then, but um he's going to break the Red Sox curse and he's going to put them well on their way to being the most successful franchise of the first 2 decades of the 2000s. And he's going to jump ship after a few years of that, and then he's going to go break the Cubs curse and make the Cubs into a perennial winner. You'd be like, wait, same dude? Okay, whatever. Okay, so oh, he's going to break the Red Sox and the Cubs curse, and that's exactly what he did. So if he takes a year off, yeah, I mean, he's really gonna. What's he gonna do? I mean, he's only gonna get like more opportunities, right? Like, and have plenty of time to leaf through them, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I sort of think like him taking over for Sandy, right? Basically running the entire franchise and whatever role he deems he wants. It seems like that to me almost kind of makes more sense. And it's either that or he decides, hey, you know what? I still want to be in it. And he decides he wants to be president of baseball ops for the Mets. I mean, should be one of the premier franchises, right?
And like de
In sport.
facto, and then and be like his own GM sort of.
Be his own guy, yeah. Be the guy, right? I mean, that's sort of Sandy is the guy. Then they have a baseball ops guy and then the GM. So like, kind of being the GM is actually not that great if you got two other guys making
The thing is, so did the Mets
long
name a
shots.
G? Did the Mets name a GM under Sandy? Then bring in Theo Epstein in a year, and then what's he going to do? He's going to clean house, change direction. I mean, it's sort of a. I
Well,
mean, that would be a weird.
yeah,
He'd have to deal with whatever free agents and stuff that he signed now. Like, that's the one place where it doesn't. And he wants a piece of ownership, and you have a guy who just bought the team, and he had to struggle and go through this 5 times, and then De Blasio even steps in at the end, and it starts being
yeah,
a tough asshole, and like those sort of like the whole idea of it sounds good, but then like you start to add up the
yeah,
parts and you're like, it doesn't actually seem like the opportunity
yeah.
that he would go for.
I
But
mean,
then again, like, where else would he go?
yeah. I
Right.
mean, the clean one for the Mets again to me would be he's the president of baseball ops, and then Sandy retires and he's the president of the Mets, and he's also baseball ops, unless he feels like having someone else be his assistant with the GM underneath it. So, and like that would, like I said, that would be the cleanest one that would let him help pick the GM or whatever, which sort of makes it feel that like this is somewhat, some of this is already like, inside baseball, right? And they kind of know these
I
are our
don't
two or
know.
three
What about
guys.
this? Here's one you haven't thought of. What if he ended up on the Yankees?
Ooh,
What if he
the
became the Yankee guru after this whole thing settles out?
premier franchise, right? I mean, not quite as rich as the Mets. Oh God, I love to say that. Not quite as many resources. They don't have the resources. When Steve wants to be Steve, he's Caesar.
You
Uh,
retreated the hill.
um, yeah, I mean, obviously that would be another tremendous franchise for them to kind of take over as well. I mean, you have, I don't know, that.
I
Let's
mean,
see.
let's
If
face
I'm
it.
Theo, which one do I want? Right. That's the interesting one. I think I want the Mets because it's just there's like you're just gonna be another one of the guys for the Yankees versus like for the Mets, like you said, this could be your three
He's
beat. This
not
is
going to be
like
another one. He wouldn't be another one of the guys because Brian Cashman's been there forever. Cashman has taken that whole thing and flipped it on its head. He's been there forever. And now, this was the 11th year, right? The 11th
yeah,
season that the Yankees didn't win a World Series. That's basically in Yankee land, that's like a Red Sox drought. I mean, that's like the equivalent to, going 86 years without winning one. So, I mean, not really, but like
yeah,
kinda when you look at their history, right? Like they had never gone a decade without winning one.
yeah,
And, here they are full on. and they've won one since 2001. So it's very possible. I mean,
Two nice options.
is he going is he's not going to the Dodgers, right? I don't think he'd be going to the Dodgers. He could go to maybe the Giants, but they're not as marquee a franchise. I mean, they're pretty awesome. I mean, did the Braves rank up there? The Braves don't really rank up there. I mean, you'd feel like if the Mets would have to sort of put everything they're doing on hold for a year, and if you knew that he was your guy and you knew you wanted him to come in, you really would. I mean, look, how about this?
Just pay him out.
If the Mets pretty much stand pat this off season, then he's coming. If the Mets stand pat,
Yeah,
he's coming. And if they don't,
that's fair.
if they make minor moves, right? If they make minor moves, then probably he's coming. If they start signing Bauer and they start signing Springer and every other dude, then he's probably not coming because he's going to be like, okay, well, I mean, these guys already have their stuff, and I'd have to undo this and undo that, and the more
I mean,
undos that
unless
he
he
has
wants
to
to
do.
flat out run the franchise, right? I mean, I guess that's over another. Who knows exactly what he wants? Does he want to have the thing of being truly the guy, like end to end, like dealing with SNY and dealing with social media and everything else like that? Like, does he want to do like I've already done the baseball ops thing. Now I want to be Mr. Franchise and show that I'm even beyond that. I mean, I don't know. It's where's his ego want to go and what does he want to do? I mean,
We'll have him on. We'll get him on. We're gonna get him on next week's show.
yeah, we'll ask him.
He refused to come on
There you
until we could get
go. Yeah.
Dog
I mean,
streaming
the other thing is like,
on Twitch.
if you're, if you're calling is if it's 10 million to make the problem go away of having one more year on the contract, and it sounds like they're letting him out of the contract anyway. So then it comes down to, well, dude, if you want to come here, here's the check. Sandy 73. Nobody else. You are the guy. Like, why would you just say no? I'm just kind of not gonna. It's just gonna be too stressful for me to be the president of baseball ops
Dude, it's
for a year.
2020. Why the hell would you not want to take a year off? You out of your mind? Like, if you could afford to just not take a $10 million check and have a year off, like, wouldn't you just totally do that? I mean,
2021. What is it gonna do? Ward stay at home? Wait for the shot.
maybe he wants to run one of the Korean
Just
League teams.
zoom, man. You're zooming for 10 million a year.
Yeah, he should just
Whatever.
run one of
He's gonna make more from Cohen. He'll be
yeah.
20.
He'll just run one of the Korean League teams that he's been watching overnight from wherever from his yacht somewhere. Why not? Yeah. So
Good problems to have.
yeah. All right. Let's talk about so we're in GM
Good night.
speak here.
Good night tomorrow.
One GM that he I don't know if Theo Epstein's going to be running to Miami next year, but if he does, he will have Kim Eng as his general manager, and that was really groundbreaking move here in the major leagues. The first female GM running a team in at least a North American major league sport, as far as I know, and from nearby to me, Ridgewood, New Jersey. I think she went to Ridgewood High School. She was like a year ahead of my year. I didn't go there, but she's been a familiar name around these parts in New Jersey, and she's been a baseball lifer, and as pretty
Got her
much
starting
anybody.
the Yankees, right?
Yeah, well, at the White Sox,
Yeah.
I mean, she started out as an intern, but she was with the Yankees, she was with the Dodgers, the White Sox, and now she's with Jeter and Mattingly. So there was the Yankee pedigree there for her, and as people in the know have said, she's been ready to run a team for like 10 years, but
Yep.
now she actually gets her opportunity, and the Marlins were one of our darling teams this year, Dog, in the 60-game truncated season.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's just a great story, right? Great story all around. Good move by Jeter. Give him hats off to that. She's obviously extremely capable. Um, has all the challenges I think still that comes with running the Marlins, but I mean a great young team with a lot of young talent, good young staff on there, and that's gonna be a nice solid foundation to build from. And it'll be interesting to see how much can the Marlins open up the checkbook themselves, kind of
Or
going
do they
forward,
need?
or they still gonna be do they need to fair
Yeah.
point, right? But they might be that one or two player away, right?
Well, here's the thing, right? You have to look at, they're another team that, depending on what the rules are going to be this year,
Hmm.
um, they may be set up, or they may be due for a dip. Um, maybe they're going to have to get managed a lot the way the Rays were, and the way the Rays have been,
Hmm.
where you got, an arsenal of guys. They have a lot of young guys. They're not even getting retreads. Like, they got guys that are, they've stockpiled for years.
Yep.
So whereas the Rays, like, they pick this guy from this organization and this guy from that organization, and then, all of a sudden they come to Tampa, and, they have every guy throws from a different arm angle, and, the Marlins just have like five
This guy
guys
throws
under.
98. This guy throws 98.
Right, and they're all like
This guy's a
under.
slider. Oh, this guy's curve.
And
This
they're
guy's
all like,
both.
and the Marlin guys are all like, 25 and under, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're studs to begin with. So, how do you manage that team? Like, do you pour money into it? Do you say, all right, we have some really good position players here. We got some really good pitchers. What do we do? Do we sign these guys and do what you were talking about with, the way you want to do with guys like Conforto and everything?
Yep.
Sign them for, longer term deals before they hit free agency, flatten it out, and, then you don't have to keep shipping these guys off at, as they're about to hit free agency, right? So it's different strategies. It's always better to be in the position where you have the pitching, because, and that's, again, we'll get back to the Bauer argument, but the more of those innings that are quality innings, the easier it is to forgive, a catcher that can't hit but is good defensively. A second baseman who can hit but isn't that good defensively, and, a first base platoon of, one guy that you picked up off the scrap heap who's 33, but all of a sudden he's kind of finding himself, and, another guy who's just coming up, and, you only want to play him against lefties. Like, you could get away with that stuff a little bit more
Hmm.
when you can get those 1400 innings, like, shrunk down where you're scrambling for guys, and they seem to be deep there. So how is Kim Ing going to manage these assets? How closely is she going to work with Don Mattingly, and get on the same page? Are we going to start seeing them, be the Rays South? They're a little further south, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's and look look at the
And that
horses
that
that
feels
they.
that feels like that's where baseball's going, right?
Yeah, but
Maybe that's it. It's you have that, and you have Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, right?
you have the
So
horses
big
the
money.
horses in the NL East to compete with, right? You have the Braves. You have, the Braves, uh, who were close to, getting on all the way here this year. You
Yeah.
have, the Nationals, who are a year removed from winning the World Series, and I think, we
Getting the
expect them
arms
to
back. Yeah.
probably bounce back. You
Yeah.
have the Mets, who now have, an owner who I think, oh wow, breaking news. Did you see this? Steve Cohen just bought Mars. He now owns the planet Mars. So the Mets, will be developing some
Looking to
guys
buy
up there.
SpaceX now.
Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah, he bought that before he bought Mars. It was a contingency deal. Um, so he had an option for Mars when he bought SpaceX. So, you have some
And then
nukes,
the Phillies.
and right, and then you have the Phillies, right, who are looking
We're
for
a
a
good
GM.
team. Yeah.
That
And they're
could be
cheap too.
another Theo Epstein place to land, right? If they don't, fill that GM slot, or they put like sort of an interimish guy there, right? He's got
Yeah.
he's got, a lot to work with. They got some,
High upside.
deep pockets.
Yeah, I
Some
would say
signature
that's
guys.
always kind of like a second tier city, right? I don't know. I don't. I mean, it's been a long time since Mike Schmidt, right? So it's been a long time since I feel he's been sort of like the spot.
Well, no, that just
I
2007,
mean, they've
8,
had
9.
success, but I'm just saying, like in terms of being like the you know a top tier franchise, like even with their success that they had there,
Right.
slash with the Mets folding, right? They were never like the big spot.
They didn't sustain it quite long enough. They needed to sustain
Yeah,
it.
like I mean,
They needed to
I would
add like
argue
a second
Atlanta's further
title.
close. Atlanta's closer to that than Philly. Atlanta's had a tradition of success for a long, long time as a franchise, at least, um, as a team, at least I should say on that. And
And
franchise doing well.
the Braves get a new stadium every like 7 years
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
because apparently you need one.
Those rough winters down in Georgia. So
It's crazy. Like the Turner Field and the Georgia Dome.
yeah,
I still thought of those as like pretty new stadiums, and they're both gone. They're
yeah,
both replaced by like these sick places.
yeah, yeah. They
Yeah.
replaced the high school like 75 years ago.
But I mean, you guys can't replace your
But hey,
voting.
Georgia
machines.
Tech, we need a new ball field for those 9 games a year.
How about
It's
some
$1
new?
billion.
How about some new voting machines, guys?
Yeah, yeah. I can't squeeze that in the budget.
Yeah, you can't fit that in. But the Mercedes, dome or whatever the hell you call it is awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So
All
yeah,
right. We got the.
setting up to be fun, and let's see. I mean, what, a couple weeks
Wait,
till
one more thing on Kim Ing. Is she going to
of
be
course.
like overly judged? Like, are people gonna start caring about like every move the Marlins make here for the short term because she's under a microscope, or are they still the Marlins where they make these moves in relative anonymity? Like even when they were trading away Stanton and Yelich, it wasn't like you know that big of a deal, except for
Yeah,
the fact that like Jeter was behind it, and people were like, "Oh, people hate Jeter down here. He's gutting the team," and blah 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 blah.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
think for that one, I think for just baseball writers, I think it's gonna be kind of same old for the Marlins. Be my guess. I would say for general news, because of the phenomenon of being the first female GM, et cetera, those stories will get picked up more than probably any other story, honestly, for coming out of baseball. So sort of like the general news stuff, they'll pick up on that more. But I can't really say like sporting news and stuff like that are going to care as much, or baseball and Max going to care as much if she's signing this one versus that one.
what's the
Unless she does like a total like rip down or something like that. Or
what's the
which
over under on the date that she fleeces the Royals for Jorge Soler? Would we go December 15th, before or after?
we'll do it after the winter meetings. So actually, no, I mean that's a great thing. Like, I mean, the fact we don't even know like there's a DH in the National League, right? I mean, there's like some major stuff. Like you literally can't start forming your team right now. My opinion. I mean, I guess you need a pitching staff, whatever. I mean, you could do some basic things here, but especially our position players, like you just don't know. You don't even know what you're trying to build for right now until they get all those rules
You
signed
don't
up.
you don't know if you want pitchers that can hit.
I tell
Always
you,
get pitchers that can hit. You never know
yeah,
when you're going to need them to
I
hit.
tell you what's gonna be fun though for like using our sort of 3 inning guy and stuff like that. How about Syndergaard coming out and coming being your the pen guy, the two inning like every other day, basically your new Lugo with like an extra 5 miles an hour.
Happy birthday, Seth Lugo, by the way.
That's what happened. Oh, and I mean, you only forgot all about it. George Thomas Seaver. So his birthday, 1944, on this day, 1944. That's why we had the Siva on. There you go. There it is. Tom Terrific, the franchise. Oh, they're probably gonna have the statue now. That's nice. We couldn't have done that like I was here, but
Like 10 years ago, right?
things are changing. At least the Seaver way now. So yeah, we're getting there, slowly but surely.
And
you guys
Steve Cohen has just renamed it Seaver Field. He wrote a $60 million check
at Alexa Park.
he wrote a $60 million check back to City, and he's like, "Yeah, we don't need the sponsorship money anymore. We're just naming it
Oh,
Seavers
look. Hey, I'll be darned. Steve Cohen just bought the Grand Central.
Field."
Oh, it's out closed on Sundays.
And as you walk into City Field now, you will walk in through the Tom Seaver Rotunda.
Ooh,
Yeah, you never know,
you never know. You never
right?
know. It's
He
Jackie,
could.
though.
I know, but I mean, he was a Dodger. He
I
was
know.
in New
I
York.
know. It was always weird. It's the
It's
Mets.
weird.
I don't disagree. It was weird. It was a nice thing for baseball. Did it have to be our team to? No, probably
I
could.
mean, maybe in the Hall of
Dodger
Fame,
Field probably could have done that. Yeah.
in the Hall of Fame, it would be nice to walk in through the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. And City Field, it kind of
Yeah.
doesn't really make a hell of a lot of sense. But
True.
you know, I mean, it's still nice. I still love the park.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And the
Hey,
Rotunda's beautiful.
I heard that in 2023 they might start allowing people back into parks.
Hey, we're two for two on vaccines here, right? We get like another 8 to come.
Yeah,
Return the corner, baby. Return the quarter.
where have I heard that before?
Oh boy, here we go. Operation Warp Speed. General Perna. Word to the staff. He's a sharp guy. They're gonna do a great job on that.
I know.
We're getting there. We're getting there, buddy. We're getting there.
We're walking the line of politics right now,
That's it. We're getting. Let's see.
which is crazy.
Let's see. Let's see. Do we get a vaccine or do we get Syndergaard back first? That's probably pretty close, actually. I don't know.
He gets Syndergaard back, but he doesn't get the vaccine, and he gets COVID.
No. Come on.
And then you have to wait a couple of more weeks, and then he comes back even stronger because
Yes.
it turns out that COVID like double strengthens your arm.
It's gonna take remdesivir, and then he's gonna be on the Trump Trump schedule.
Yeah.
Road trip, no problem.
Wait, why is Syndergaard coming to the mound in a helicopter? What's that all about? Can he just walk?
Uncle
No.
Paul, took a question on the female agents in baseball. I don't know the answer now. Bauer's got a female agent who, by the way, appears like she's maybe 22. It's like she seems extraordinarily young to be an agent for like.
You sound like an old man.
I do sound like I'm telling you, she looks like Molly's age.
You sound like
there's young. Like, I mean, Bauer's 30, but he looks like he's like an old guy compared to her.
You sound like in the Jerky Boys, where he's like, "You sound like a young kid. How old are you, sir?" That's what you sound like.
I said, I'm a grumpy old dog.
Oh wow!
I gotta look it up then, though. It's probably 23.
I didn't see I didn't see all of the Uncle Paul comments. I was trying to, I'm trying to multitask.
Bauer's a
over here.
female agent in Luba. Any other female agents in baseball? I mean, I'm sure there are.
Yeah, there have to be. I mean,
but I don't know the top name one.
They might not necessarily be front and center all the time, like if they work for agencies and stuff. But like these agencies, I think are pretty diversified. I mean, when you're talking about lead agents, it's not always in 2020 like just one person representing one player. It's they sit down for negotiations and you have a team of 3-4 people maybe, and your people,
like when we hear about the agents,
people,
it's Boris or Brody or the top 2 or 3 guys. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but they're also
I don't know the other like 100 like male agents either.
Yeah, but they have their right hand people that are with them. They're not always like necessarily negotiating the deals. It's they're front and center of their agencies and stuff, right? So, not that uncommon. And listen, I mean, that's the way it should be. I mean, best person for the job, whoever it is, if she's gonna get Trevor Bauer the right deal, and
Hispanic. I don't know Uncle Paul. Let's know if she's Hispanic. I assume so. I don't know.
It's possible.
I don't know.
Luba? I don't know. Google it. We're gonna have her on the show next.
Yeah, where's our producer?
We're gonna have her on the show next week. Next week with Kim Ng. But only if she's done signing, getting.
Yeah, only if she gets
Trevor
Bauer to New York.
Yeah, if she gets him in. All right, I think we covered everything we needed to cover for Tuesday Night Live. If you want to follow the dog on Twitter, it's Jeff Healy 8. That's the numeral 8. If you want to follow me, Joe Rizzo, Rear Naked Choke, all one word. That's on Twitter. Joe Rizzo MMA on Instagram. Dog still does not have an Instagram. I feel like with
Not
the
gonna happen.
streaming that we've started tonight, and we will get better at this, we promise. Um, in a way, I sort of feel like we've de-emphasized Instagram, but I don't think we're going to de-emphasize it that much. I think we're just growing by leaps and bounds
Multi-channel.
in different channels. So on Twitch, we are Diamond Diehards. On Twitter and Instagram, we are at Diamond Diehards. And YouTube, let me see. I'll look at YouTube.
I think we're Diamond Diehards.
I don't think we have that yet. I mean, if
No,
you
it's on there.
Google,
I'm telling you. I was just looking at you. Hold on. Hold
if
up
you
now.
look at YouTube, if you go to YouTube and you put in Diamond Diehard, you'll find us. I think.
Yeah.
It's just not
I don't know. I don't know what
YouTube.com
this URL.
slash.
This URL is like a weird looking URL,
Yeah, it's like a weird looking like
but yeah, I just
URL
typed
kind
in
of
Diamond
thing.
Diehards. We popped up right there.
So.
There's one subscriber. That's me.
Well, that's for we're doing
Test
that on
purposes.
purpose.
Test purposes.
Yeah, test purposes. And let's see, we got Twitch, facebook.com/Diamond Diehards. That's where you're getting the best live stream today.
Got the page.
But you'll be able to, find it on whichever app: Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, wherever you want to find it. You'll find it live, and those shows will stay up there. Like me, if you are a podcast listener type person where you like to just put a podcast on, go for a long walk, I'm not as much of a video guy, I'm not as much of a live stream guy myself. And what I like to do is I like to pop in the AirPods and listen to my podcasts and whatever I'm doing if I can. So we want you to do that for us. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you find your podcasts. Check us out there. We got some sponsorships working, and if you think that is something that you're interested in, then feel free to contact us on one of these 8 zillion social media platforms that we just gave you,
The
and we'd
freaking
love
army
to.
should.
Yeah, yeah, the army, the
All the
friggin'
free
army
PR we
should.
give them.
Yeah, and we should be open and willing to hear
Army.com.
all conversations along those lines. Stuff is in the works right now that we're really really excited about, and this is the first step toward that. So
Newsmax.
I think, oh, God, I think that's gonna do it for this one. That will do it. We will wrap it up here. Good dog. Anything? Did I miss anything? Did I catch
Nope, nailed it
everything?
all. Got it all.
I got it all.
Got it all.
Okay.
Got it all.
I think that's I want it all. That'll do it. And I just want to give a special shout out to Jerry Milani. A special thanks again. I got him at the beginning, but he's really, really done so much behind the scenes to help us get even to this point, and then especially for this show. So thanks, Jerry. For the dog, Jeff Healy. This is Joe Rizzo. Thanks for listening to Diamond Diehards. It is the baseball off season, but we're just getting started. Diamond Diehards is out.